In this video, I'm going to show you guys how you can go out and gather loads of Dungeoneering tokens really quickly, all by yourself. Now, of course, you can do these in groups too, and it'll probably be a little bit quicker as well. But if you are a solo player, sometimes gathering Dungeoneering tokens can be a little bit of a pain, as you don't want to do group runs, and so this is a good way that you can do it. There's going to be two methods in this video, and they are both going to, of course, require combat to do so. One of them is going to be a little bit more tedious, but a bit easier to access in terms of gear and levels, and then the other one is going to be a little bit higher level, however faster and better, and also has a chance of making you some money as well. So that being said, let's go. Now there's a few reasons why you may want to have access to a lot more Dungeoneering tokens than you may need, or for those of you that are getting started, you may just want the tokens anyway. Now we've come to the Dungeoneering reward shops here, and there's also another one here which we're going to quickly cover and talk about, but even if you've bought all of the stuff from here, which has some super useful stuff for the low level players, you got Charming Imp in here, you've got like Herbicide and gem bags and all sorts of stuff. Like there's so many things in here that are going to be useful. Of course, the gold accumulator is useful, but it's super expensive. Ring of Vigor, like the things out of this reward shop, never ending in terms of how useful they can be. So definitely take a look at this sort of stuff if you haven't got them all, and see if there's anything that you might want to get. You can spend a lot of tokens here really quickly, so you know it's something that you're going to want to look at. However, you may also want to have tons more Dungeoneering tokens just for future stuff, because you can make money off of Dungeoneering tokens. One of the things you can do is buying one of these Death Lotus extracts every now and again. Maybe not one, but you can buy a few every now and again. Just be careful with how many you buy, because the price of these will drop. I'll show you in a second. I'll put it on screen for you that you can see. I sold one of these just before for 240k-ish or something like that. Pretty damn good. So you could buy like 100 of these, or maybe even do like in sets of 10, sell them, make sure they are actually selling, and then you can sell those off and make a bit of money. But if everybody does this, the price is going to go down. The other thing is Lucky Charms here. You have Lucky Charms from Dungeoneering Undercity, Shadow Reef, all the elite dungeons, right? And these will increase the chance of you getting rare items. However, the Dungeoneering Undercity will also give you a better chance of getting slivers, in terms of the blue slivers and the red and orange, right? Or orange and yellow, whatever they are. And the blue ones are worth really good money still. So you could convert the tokens into these, and then go and do full runs in ED4 or whatever, and get those slivers. Especially if you're an Iron Man, this could save you time on getting enchantments. There's going to be many reasons to constantly do this. But you can also head into this shop again, and I believe you need like certain chaotic stuff, chaotic spikes maybe, to make things like elite Serenic or elite whatever, like elite gear. Sometimes that's super profitable too, but price check everything before you do it. I'm not saying, oh, always do this, it's profitable. Always price check stuff, but you can basically convert tokens into GP if you can find the right way to do it, and if it's the right time to do it. And of course, like I say, in fact, I'll just buy one of these now and show you. Let's just buy like 10 of these, because we'll see. Maybe they won't always all sell, but I'll show you that these do have value now and then. So 10 potions. 208,000 coins its value in each here, but I just sold one for 251k. So we'll put them all in. We'll just put them in at this and see if they go. Because they did. So that's 2.5 mil nearly. Nice and easy. It cost me a few tokens. So, you know, you can definitely take advantage of that, but don't just buy the full stock and try and sell them, because if the prices don't actually go because there's not enough demand, do them in batches. But yeah, there's a lot of reasons to have lots of tokens. It's good. So let's go and find out how you can get them pretty quickly. Now, the way that I gathered all of my tokens personally, or most of them, is just from running regular elite dungeons. I've done a lot of elite dungeons over time, and these do gather you up a lot of tokens, because each boss you kill is going to give you 5,000 tokens, and the same goes for mini bosses as well. So that's how I've ended up with my millions of tokens, and millions that I've had in the past and spent and stuff like that. So it's definitely something to consider. If you enjoy doing elite dungeons, you're not just doing it for the GP that makes, but you're also going to be gathering up quite a lot of Dungeoneering tokens as well. And if you are specifically there for tokens, then you're going to want to kill off the mini bosses as well. However, speaking of mini bosses, that is the way that we're going to be talking about, that you can take advantage of these to make a lot of tokens per hour and just rake them in. I believe the most efficient method is to farm Elite Dungeon 1 in a little bit of a group, and you just farm the first few mini bosses in there and then teleport out and reset, because there's quite a lot of them in comparison to the other dungeons. However, we're going to be focusing on ED3 and on ED4. So we're going to start off with ED3, as this is a bit of a lower requirement method, but you're still going to have to access a decent amount of gear and stuff like that to get started on farming these solo. Okay, so for the first method, you're going to want to have probably access, if you're not using necromancy, to tier 85 weapons, which give you the tier 90 accuracy. These aren't too expensive, so it shouldn't be too big of an issue to grab your hands on. That being said, if you are using necromancy, this is going to be even easier for you. Tier 70 stuff with like maybe slightly higher level in necromancy, but not overly much higher, then you should be absolutely fine to get through this first method without too much of an issue. Unfortunately, I can't lower my levels to show you guys, but we'll just be using lower level gear, and I won't use prayers or overloads, that sort of stuff. However, if you guys do have access to overloads and prayers and any better gear than what I'm using, you should definitely use it. Okay, so what do you need to do? We're going to be starting off at ED3, and what you're going to want to do is enter the dungeon as a solo person, of course, and just extend your map, as you can see I've done at the top of my screen here. This is going to allow you to see if the first boss has spawned or not. You may need to move over to this wall here to be able to actually load everything into the dungeon. If you can see the boss icon on the map, then you're going to want to travel through the first couple of waves of mobs until you reach the boss, and just ignore anything else after that. Your focus is to kill the boss off as quick as possible, then reset the dungeon and head back in, and just keep rinsing and repeating this. Now, this boss doesn't always spawn, there's just a random chance that it will, so you may have to go in a couple of times, leave, reset, enter again, and do all that sort of stuff to make sure that this boss has actually spawned. This is why you drag your map out, because you don't want to run down here and then it not be there. So make sure you check that this is spawned before you travel through the dungeon. If you can't see the boss icon there, then just leave the dungeon, and when it asks when you re-enter if you want to continue where you left off, make sure you say no and reset your progress. If it is there, you're going to want to just travel down, use AoE on the first lot of mobs, the second lot of mobs, and then ignore the next one and just head up the pathway here to kill this boss off. All you need to do here is protect from magic and do as much damage as you can. You may need to use some food, you may need to use like whatever you can to stay alive a little bit. He does deal a decent amount of damage, but as long as you have the gear mentioned earlier, then you should be okay. Once you kill this boss off, you'll be rewarded with 5,000 tokens. Then your best bet is going to be to teleport to War's Retreat, bank really quickly and head back through your portal, and then reset the whole thing again. Now, of course, the faster you can clear this and get the boss, the more tokens you're going to be able to get. So while I don't have an exact number for you here, this is going to be faster than doing like Dungeoneering floors. And let's be honest, nobody enjoys doing Dungeoneering floors, right? But that's it for the first method. Nice and easy. You just go in, check that the boss is there. If it's not, reset, go back in again until it is, and then run through the dungeon up to the first boss, kill the first boss off, and get out. Okay, so let's move on to the little bit more difficult method. So next up, we have Elite Dungeon 4. Now, this is a hell of a lot better than ED3 if you have the gear for it. Now, the way I'm going to tell you guys the gear level for this is give it a go with your best gear. If you are probably tier 85 to 90 plus in terms of like non-necromancy stuff, but if you are in necromancy, this can probably be done in tier 80 plus. I would say you wouldn't have too much of an issue with that, but honestly, just try it, because things like Cinderbane gloves are useful. You should definitely be taking advantage of weapon poison as well, and any other damage increasing stuff that you have, such as auras and familiars, are all going to be important here. There's also a couple of ways of going about this, which I'll talk about soon, but the reason you would pick this over ED3 is if you can clear it quickly enough, then you can get a lot more tokens here per hour. Absolutely. The boss is also guaranteed to be there every time you come in, so you don't have to keep checking if it's there and restarting the dungeon, which can get tedious. And you can also have a chance at making some money too if you bring along some Zamorakian lucky charms. You can also improve your chances of making money if you do the other method. There's two methods, a fast one and a slightly slower one, but also it depends on how much gear you've got. Let's talk about it. So what you're going to want to do is make yourself a preset, head to Elite Dungeon 4, which is Zamorak, and then head into the dungeon in normal mode. Enrage won't make a difference to the tokens you earn or the money you earn, so just don't bother. You can also do this in story mode, but you're only going to get 500 tokens for the boss instead of the regular 5,000, so I wouldn't really recommend it. So select normal mode. If you have any progress, make sure to reset it. And your goal here is going to be heading to the Hellhound, which is actually available immediately. And this is where it kind of forks off into two different things. You can either head immediately down the right hand path that you can see me heading and ignore all the initial mages and just rush down and kill the boss. Now, you can kill this boss before the mages follow you down, but he does deal a fair amount of damage, and he does have quite a decent amount of health as well. So if you don't have really high level gear and you're not killing the boss off quickly enough, you probably want to kill these mages off, because they're all going to come in and pile you, and as with those killing you and the Hellhound hitting you as well, it can be quite a bit of damage to tank. So for someone without really good gear, you may want to kill the mages off. then head down the pathway and then kill the Hellhound. But your goal is to just kill the Hellhound as quick as you can and then reset the dungeon, just like you did with Elite Dungeon 3. Now it's worth mentioning that if you are looking at making more money, you could kill off the first mages pretty easily with AoE stuff like Greater Chain or Threads of Fate, that sort of thing, and then you can have a higher chance of proccing your charms each time you do a run, and that would lead to more money but less charms per hour. Or you can just, of course, run all the way down and skip them all together and just focus on the Hellhound. It's also probably worth mentioning that the way that I would deal with the mages, if you are going to be killing them, is to run past them down the corridor anyway, and they will follow you down to the bottom. Kill them here, because that way, if you open the barrier, you don't want to aggro the things on the other side of the barrier and have them chase you down as well. So just run past them down the end of the corridor into the corner, kill off the mages, and then head through to the Hellhound. It's also probably worth mentioning that you can say spot the Hellhound, but I wouldn't recommend doing this, because if you do so, then you will deal reduced damage by quite a lot. I believe it's probably 50%. You can see this by the numbers of damage that I'm doing to him right now. Now, of course, if you want to do this, you can. It's going to be slower in terms of tokens, but that's completely up to you. If you don't want him to have reduced damage, you will have to go in the room and have him hitting you while you do damage to him. Using devotion and protecting from melee as you go through the door is a great way to not get absolutely mauled to death as well. But basically, kill off the Hellhound as quick as you can, teleport back towards retreat, bank if you need to, but use the altar, use the adrenaline crystal again to reset your abilities and your adrenaline potion, and then head back into the dungeon and just rinse and repeat. Now, as I mentioned, the blue slithers, the slivers of pain, is where the value of money is going to be coming from in here. I would check the other ones as well. They could have value depending on the time that you do this. Check what enchantment is better to make and whether it's profitable to actually make it, but stacking these up in your bank is never a bad thing, and if you're an Iron Man, you can get access to these too. And that's basically it. A couple of ways that you can just grab yourself a hell of a lot of Dungeoneering tokens to spend them on Dungeoneering charms or other ways of making money, or just any useful items that you don't yet have. I really hope this video helped you guys out. I wanted to remake this and update it because it was one of my most popular videos in the past, but it was pretty outdated and I made it way back when, so it was definitely improvable. If you have any questions, then leave them down in the comments. But other than that, thanks for watching, guys. I appreciate it, and I'll catch you all in the next one. See you later, guys. Bye.